for multifamily units. But remember that these only are shown if there's a subdivision as part of this, these numbers, right? So you won't see an RD zone with apartments coming in. You wouldn't see those numbers showing here. So there's a lot more multifamily that could be occurring. We just don't show these on these numbers because they're for subdivisions. So 174 for, these are, again, preliminary plats, 1595 for single-family homes. And just quickly, I just wanted, the map is correct, so you can get a sense of where these developments are occurring. They're actually kind of all over the place, but that's a change from the past. We've typically seen preliminary plats come in the northeast and the southwest primarily, but we're getting them all over now, including infill in our already developed portions of the city. Those are really small typically, but we are getting infill, so that's great news, and I think it shows that development is happening all over the place. So that's preliminary plats. Let me show you the final plats, just for the public too. Final plats, we have 88 multifamily units and 1158 single-family units. Let's see if I can get this to show up. There we go.
You had 80 on here for multifamily, so that figure's wrong also?
What did I have?
You said 88 on here, it's got 80.
Oh, sorry, it should be 80.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so this is more reflective of where we've seen most of the development occur, of course, recently. The final plats are basically right before construction occurs, and so you're going to see these being developed in the near future. And most of those, as you can see, the northeast and the southwest, with a few scattered in the southeast and northwest. But
West, how close we get into Caldwell? Or area of impact?
so we have actually a development that we're working on right now that kind of straddles Caldwell and Nampa. And there hasn't been a turf war yet. They've been really good about it and just say, hey, this is the impact area. But it doesn't make sense for us in some ways to service those areas if they're across a major waterway of some kind. So we're negotiating right now. Well, how do we serve this? And if we give up a little bit of land in our impact area, does it make sense? And is there any other area that maybe Caldwell could give up a little bit of land for us? So we're in negotiations right now about that. I'm talking to the mayor tomorrow about that specific project. So yeah, we're coming up against Caldwell's impact area, and they're coming up against ours. So
It looks like there's a lot of room to grow on the other side towards Meridian, and when that McDermott interchange comes in,
yeah,
I think that's where we're gonna start, this growth is gonna shift towards
yeah,
that side of town.
absolutely, absolutely. With State Highway 16 and yep, absolutely. And we've got, you know, other plans for South Nampa to expand our impact area down there. We're trying to set up a meeting with the property owners near Lake Lowell and that southern area where we can start looking at our impact area expansion. I think the problem with that is that people just don't understand what an impact area does. They think it's city's going to take over and force them into the city, and that's just not the case. But we're trying to communicate that. What does it mean if you get incorporated into our impact area? What does that mean for you? And for a lot of people, it means some really good things, right? Because they have the potential for annexation and development of their property. It becomes more valuable. So we're working through that.
And north, doesn't it go all the way to the Boise River?
It does for just a short little
But
section.
it touches up there. That
It does.
Yeah, that's quite a ways, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and then the short plats, I'm not going to cover those. You can see those on your sheet there. It's pretty small. So small numbers for short plats. So, any questions for me? Before we go into questions, at the end of the fiscal year, or excuse me, at the end of the calendar year, I will present I think we do in January, middle of January is when we'll do a full analysis of the year. And we'll make a comparison to the previous years so you can see what's happened over the past year.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I have.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Did you guys get to look at the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Report on council actions.
Madam Chair, I guess that's me too. Let's see, July 6th was the last city council meeting. We had two final plats go forward, Silver Star 1 and Silver Star 2. That's off of Star and between Cherry and Eustic, and both of those were approved. The public hearings, we had a couple of variances, which you don't hear or see, so I won't talk about those unless you have questions about it. But the first item that you would probably be interested in is the Maple Leaf development. This is the one across from J.C. Penney's over on Stam. I think I mentioned this before. They went before city council and did this go back through? Oh, I guess you just saw this just recently, the revision. And they had originally proposed a whole bunch of townhomes and they were surrounded by county lots, but they revised it to single-family homes on the edges of that development and townhomes in the middle. City council, I was surprised, but they actually approved it with really no conditions except they wanted to see the developer work with neighboring properties, property owners to extend sidewalk all the way over to Happy Valley. So that was really interesting. The developer was willing to do that, and they said, well, if the property owners are willing to let us put this sidewalk in, we will put it in. So they are working right now to do that so that there's a connection over to Happy Valley Road.
Cool.
So that's that one. And number 2 was the Starbucks rezone off of North Side and 6th Street North, and that was approved. That was a rezone to BC.
Yeah,
So that's it.
cool. All right, business item number 1. I can't see Christy, but I know she's there.
Okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you this evening is the approval or denial of the Spring Shore Subdivision Number 3, located west of the 11th Avenue North Extension and north of Cherry Lane. It is located inside the city limits and is zoned RS 8.5. It's bordered on the north and east sides by Canyon County Ag land and on the south and west by RS 8.5 zoned properties. West side being another phase of this subdivision and the south being just vacant land. The annexation and zoning for this property was completed in May of 2006. In October of 2019, the preliminary plat was approved, with Phase 1 approved in May of 2020 and Phase 2 approved in January of 2021. The development proposes 37 buildable lots and 9 common lots on 14.09 acres and does match the layout of the preliminary plat. So in that case, we find that it is located within the city limits and zoned RS 8.5. It conforms to the approved preliminary plat layout, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. Should you choose to approve this, staff would recommend that you approve it with conditions as listed in your staff report and any others you see fit to impose. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christy?
Nope, no questions.
So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that we approve the subdivision final plat for Spring Shores number 3 in an RS 8.5 zoning district for 37 single-family lots, 9 common lots, located at 11th Avenue North for Kent Brown, representing Heartland Townhomes Property Management, with conditions if staff is listed.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the final plat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Business item number 2, Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you is the approval or denial of an appeal for the Building and Site Design Review Committee decision for Edmark Toyota. The appellant being Dion Chacon, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Some history on the property. March this year, conditional use permit was approved by you for the aftermarket and reconditioning center. April, the appeal was sent to City Council, and they upheld your decision to approve that conditional use permit. In May, Building and Site Design Committee approved the design plans for this development. And that decision was appealed, and that is why we are here tonight. We don't see these a whole lot, so the applicable regulations in this case, 1034A8, give the grounds of approving the appeal, which states that the following are all sufficient justifications for you to overturn or modify the decision given by the committee. These justifications are all written in a way that the applicant of the design review appeals the decision, whereas this one is an outside appellant appealing the approval of that decision. So it could be hard for you to use most of these justifications to change that decision. However, A would probably be the justification that you would use, which is inconsistency with the purpose and objectives of the design review chapter. This is the stated grounds for appeal by the appellant. This was included in your staff report. What they have listed, number one, they state that it appears non-compliant with the design standards for GB1. Number two, they state that it's not, the facade changes are not adhered to. 3 would be the changes in material. 4 would be the glazing. 5 is the roof, the visual displacements being the roof height and the breakup of the wall planes. 6 would be the public entrances are not easily identifiable, and 7 would be the fencing regulation. And I'll go through the report that I gave to design review to give you some context for that. These pictures are all visuals that were included by the appellant, kind of as examples of what they'd like to see. Some general information. I know we've been through this a few times already. It's in a commercial comp plan, future land use map. It's all surrounded by GB1. To the south is the car lot for Edmark. To the east are restaurants and retail, and to the west is the medical business park. As far as the site, It's currently vacant. Access will be taken from Brinson on the west side. They're proposing 28 on-site parking spaces for their employees and customers. So here is a elevation for you to see, give you a visualization. As far as the facade material changes, these all meet the code. I've included, let me see, the percentage. This is a better representation of the material changes. It requires that they have 50% on the primary facade, and then the glazing is required 25%, and it meets all those requirements. These are the materials that they've presented for that. One being the split face CMU. They're proposing a ground face CMU, and then another split face CMU in a charcoal color. They also proposed a wall panel, metal wall panel, to include a second material. And those are indicated by the different colors, the orange being the metal, and then the green being the CMU. As you can see here, the different color CMU are shown there. Here's a site layout for you showing the building as it's situated on the lot. The fencing is to go from the north side to the north property line and enclose the side and the rear of the building. And then extending from the south side of the building to the east property line to enclose the rear side of the building. These are pictures of the surrounding buildings to give you a sense of what the appellant is trying to show to you. And these all went through design review at that time as well. So some of the issues that were raised by the staff and the design review committee meeting. Change in roof height are limited on this building. The front entrance is not easily identifiable, and then fencing was an issue just because of the material wasn't presented, what type of material they would be using for fencing.
Do we know that now?
No, we do not. However, this is the code that applies to, design review code that applies to fencing, which gives limits them in a certain degree. So they would need to include some examples, but not limited to stacked stone masonry with mortared cap, textured block wall, a wrought iron fence. They wouldn't be able to use chain link or chain link with slats, corrugated metal, typical residential wood. So those would all be not permitted through design review standards. As far as the roof height and front entrance, those weren't deemed an issue by the committee, and that's why they approved it. Those conditions are kind of susceptible to interpretation, I guess. They're not measurable, so it's kind of hard to say yes or no to those types of things. The condition of approval is there stated. They didn't add any additional conditions to that. And a statement from the owner, architect of the building, that was included in your staff report as well. They state that it meets all of the Chapter 34 requirements. They attached the following pictures for comparison in the GB1 zone. Those are all in the general vicinity of the property. Staff analysis, we covered the justifications. It was, letter A would be the one that you would use if you were to approve or modify the decision of the committee. Issues that we discussed, as I stated, the roof height. Staff didn't see much variation in that roof height. The front entrance not being easily identifiable. As I stated before, the committee didn't have an issue with those. And the fencing would just not be allowed to be chain link. It would have to meet the Chapter 34 standards. And the committee didn't have any issue with the way that the fencing was positioned. These are the motions for you. So denying the appeal would be to uphold the committee decision. Approving would be to reverse that decision. Or you may modify the decision to add conditions if you wish. And I will stand for any questions.
Can you put the site building plan where the fence is shown? Yeah, that one. So that's coming off that corner, wrapping around the back. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me or not. And then coming back around to the bottom there. And one of the appellant's concerns was it didn't set off the front entrance enough. Seems like if everything else is fenced off in the building, the part that's not fenced off would be the front entrance.
Commissioner, the front entrance, sorry. As the architect stated, they emphasize the front entrance by these plantings, and it's a lower, it's kind of a lower, as you can see here, elevation to make it appear to be a public entrance. So that's what their reasoning was.
And the fencing material, technically, they could put a wrought iron fence in around the back?
Yes, it doesn't meet, it doesn't, if they're gonna screen something, it doesn't, really
meet the
screen
screening,
anything.
right.
But they could fence it with wrought iron, yes.
Is that one of the appellant's concerns, is that the fencing won't be screening everything on that lot? Is the appellant concerned that they're gonna be able to see cars and whatever that's in the back of that building?
Yes.
I would imagine, that's what I think. I didn't know if that was.
Yes, I think that's one of their concerns. I think their concern is that seeing cars back there brings down the value of their own property, just because it makes it appear, less welcoming in a sense.
No, I'm just thinking.
Parker, the appellants, are they adjacent properties or close by properties?
The appellants are all represented by the buildings to the west, as you can see here.
So they sit behind the building.
They are sitting in front, yeah, across the street from the front.
Do you think that if there was some kind of fencing like solid fence, vinyl fence, would that satisfy them, do you think? It sounds like it's all a matter of sight, what they can see and what you can't see, the objections.
I couldn't say if that would satisfy their needs, but if they're gonna be storing inventory behind their building, they would need screened fencing, whether it'll be a wall or, I guess vinyl fencing would be, vinyl's not allowed, yeah.
So that's not something we necessarily have to add as a condition on this, because that's what's gonna be required anyways. If they're storing inventory or cars or whatever it might be, it has to be screened no matter what, all the way around.
Right, and it'd have to meet our standards.
That's sure.
And again, just for clarification on my part, the appellants are office buildings, they're not car dealerships or anything related to automobile. I mean, all that industry around there is mostly related to automobiles, except for these pellets.
Well, there's a whole business park behind of offices
All the
and
ones-
dance academy and all sorts
Are
of
the ones along
Commercial.
the front there.
The businesses, we've got O'Reilly's, we've got Remax here, Jack in the Box, Sonic, other retail places to the east,
They're not the pellets.
right?
The pellets seem to be all offices, so they're worried about their clients driving back to their office and seeing used cars or, they're not gonna be used cars. This is not a repair shop. This is just for reconditioning cars to make them look prettier.
Yeah, that's the conditional use permit was approved for reconditioning, right?
No, I think it's a pretty good looking building for a reconditioning shop, whatever you want to call it. It'll probably be a detail. I think it looks better than the, no offense to Corwin if anybody's in the audience, but it looks better than the Corwin building down the street. There's more discussion. I'll make a motion. Okay. Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the appeal of the Building and Site Design Review Committee action regarding the approval of a vehicle aftermarket in reconditioning center site and building design in a GB1 district at 16115 and 16027 Idaho Center Boulevard for Matthew Sanchi representing Edmark Toyota with, I don't need conditions because it's a denial. So that's it.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, public hearing time. After 7. Okay, public hearing item number 1. Rodney. What was that? Oh, applicant first. Say, I'm gonna do more business items. All right.
They have extensive, oh, wow.
You're
Wow.
gonna have to start over now.
They have extensive real estate development experience and have successfully developed large industrial warehouse distribution facilities in California, Texas, and Idaho. Wanted to show you all just a couple examples. This is the Bay Area Logistics Center in Richmond, California. It is, again, a large industrial project that provides warehouse and distribution spec space, so very similar to the project we're going to bring on this site. The second project I just wanted to show you real quick is the McClellan Logistics Center in McClellan, California. Also, again, another warehousing, logistics, industrial space, this one for Amazon. So this is LDK's first project in Nampa, but we are looking at many other sites, and we expect to be before you again here in the near future with other projects similar to this one. So tonight we are before you on two applications. The first is an annexation application, and the second is a zoning application. Together, these applications will let LDK develop this site with a turnkey industrial spec space that you all know is in very high demand. So the property at issue here on the left-hand side, it's 20 acres in size. It's on the west side of Madison, north of Karcher, south of Cherry Lane. On the right-hand side is your comprehensive planning map. As you can see, this property is designated as industrial on the comp plan. So turning to the first application, the annexation, we are requesting that you recommend annexation tonight. Annexation is proper in this case because we are in the city's area of impact and we're currently contiguous to the city limits. So the gray here, current city limits, as you can see, we're nearly surrounded at this time. Annexation is also supported in this case because this is orderly growth. I think one important factor the city typically looks at are what utilities are available. And we do have all city services in Madison Avenue on our frontage at this time. So the next thing we're going to ask for is industrial zoning. Light industrial zoning specifically. We are asking for this because it supports our anticipated uses. It's also supported by the comprehensive plan, and as you can see, the city has already annexed and zoned the area around us as light industrial, so we wanted to be compatible with the city's plan here. Again, this zoning will allow us to construct turnkey spec industrial space. We anticipate uses for warehousing and distribution. Real quick, here is a kind of a concept elevation, something that we expect it to look very similar, if not exactly like this. And then this would be the site plan. So I'm a little more zoomed in than I was here, but you can see the industrial to our south as well as to the west and east, and that is the site plan. We're looking at three buildings, 2 accesses onto Madison. And I just really quickly wanted to touch on the need for this type of use. I'm sure you guys have heard this from many applicants. I know myself a couple months ago, but current vacancy rates for industrial space in the city of Nampa overall is at 0.5, so less than 1% vacancy. And our specific project is gonna bring Class A space, and vacancy rate right now for Class A is 0.48%. These numbers are provided by TOK Commercial, independent third-party broker. And our research that we did before bringing this project to you all suggests that this market is going to eat up approximately 3 million square feet of industrial in 2021, and in the forthcoming years doesn't look to be slowing down at all. So again, in great need. Just as a metric, we typically look at 5% as a healthy market. So we're way below that with almost no vacancy. And just in conclusion, we believe this is the right time and the right location for the project. This area specifically has a lot of industrial uses. The city just spent a lot of time and money with ITD on the north side interchange, kind of making this area perfect for the use. And we believe it'll be a valuable asset to the city to attract businesses and employers. And with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay, we may have some for you later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Rodney, now you get to go. Daniel, you've been fired from getting the sheets. He was going. Thank you.
There we go. Madam Chair and Commission, the project before you for annexation and zoning to IL. I think the applicant's done a really good job of just describing the general request before you. Just a quick analysis of land use. The comprehensive plan designation is industrial in this area. The latest comprehensive plan that we did removed the light versus heavy industrial designation, so it's just all one designation of industrial, and they are requesting the IL or light industrial zoning, and you can see, as the applicant has stated, the conditions around it are industrial primarily zoning-wise. There are some county residential in the area, a few homes in that area. The size is 20.06 acres. Surrounding land use and zoning, we talked about this for the most part already, so I can skip over most of this, but to the north, I did want to point out that there is the 32-acre Adler Industrial City parcel with I'm sorry, let me go back here. Yes, so this is talking about this section right here. With a single-family home, IL Light Industrial Zoning District, and then a partially developed county parcel with a NextEdge industrial building that's 17 acres. That's in the county right now, and it's zoned light industrial for the county, and that's that property here. That's NextEdge. That essentially the building got started. A lot of you are familiar with this one, but the building got started. It hasn't been completed.
Yeah.
What's that?
This is a train wreck.
So once this develops out, it will need to go through the county for finishing the building permit conditions. It's basically a shell building there and just not been utilized. And not fully developed out. There's a 3-acre single-family residential parcel and trailer business zoned agriculture for the county, and that's this one here. To the south is the Madison Industrial Park, IL light industrial zoning in the city. To the east is a 15.5-acre undeveloped parcel. It's zoned IL as light industrial and anticipating development in the future. To the west is an 18-acre and undeveloped parcel, city-zoned IL light industrial. Same situation, anticipating that developing in the future, in the fairly near future. Public utilities are all available in Madison Road, as the applicant has stated, and as you can see here. The light blue there is just the parcel line. Okay, so applicable regulations, you've heard this before. Annexations have to be contiguous with a city-zoned property. And typically what happens is that the applicant or the owner of the property has expressed their interest in annexing into the city, and that's category A. These are the laws pertinent to the zoning map amendments or proposed zoning, and essentially it needs to comply with our comprehensive plan and be compatible with the uses proposed in the area. Schedule of land uses are in your packet. I've listed them here. And the purpose behind the IL Light Industrial District, the conditions associated with the IL zone, including setbacks, I've listed there. Then the correspondence we received, we had buildings standard comment about Title IV compliance, and then engineering's comments that are all in your packet and can be addressed if there's a desire there. These are the recommended conditions of approval. I did want to make a quick comment. We received a comment this morning from a resident, I believe, in the area, and they are here today and have signed up to speak. So I'll let them go through the details, but from what I'm what I'm finding after analyzing this is the county, what they've submitted are conditions that they were wanting to make sure were followed, that were agreed to with the county for the Next Edge property to the north, where the Shell building is. I've looked through the document, and it does say 17-acre parcel. I haven't analyzed it fully, but that would reference that property that has the Shell building incomplete to the north. The conditions that are associated with a development agreement at a county level and a zoning conditions, in this case, it was a special or a conditional zoning, which is basically a conditional use permit for that to occur there. They entered into an agreement with the county to do that, and those are the conditions that the concerned citizen submitted. And that is an agreement between a county and the property owner for a service that a county provides. In this case, it's to the south of that property, and you could include those comments if you want. I've got them ready to show you if the concerned citizens still want to discuss that. So I can bring that up on the screen when they stand up. But you could put those as conditions. In fact, I think I will just show you what those conditions are. Conditions of approval, this is with the county, but basically following state and local laws and conditions. The number 2 is all exterior illumination will be pointed down, directed toward the property and not towards the adjacent properties. And then, let's see, the parking, landscaping, setback standards will be followed from the city, even though this was a county, it's in our impact area, and so that was one of the conditions. And then finally, that any development within the subject property shall connect to City of Nampa water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation. So if there's a desire to have those included, I think that's easy to include there. But I would defer to the concerned citizen who is here today, and they'll express their thoughts there. So, and with that, I will go back to my,
Rodney?
yes.
Sorry, quick question before you zip from that slide. Those were conditions, so the county agreed, had this development agreement that said the City of Nampa, that the development has to concur or comply with City of Nampa code. The county was saying that to the developer at the
Correct.
time.
Yeah, and they agreed to that. Either way,
It
both
doesn't
of them
matter, but
agreed
okay.
to it. Yeah, but again, that's the property to the north.
Right. Okay.
Hard on us, so I don't see any problem.
No, it was just for clarification. I just wanted this clarification.
Makes them happy,
Okay.
nothing wrong with
It's been clarified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then this is the potential motion for your consideration.
Okay. Any other questions for Rodney? All right, let's go to public testimony. Okay, I'm going to try really hard to pronounce his name. Srinivasa Nukala? Okay, you, okay. How bad did I butcher your name? Oh, little check mark, okay. Did you want to speak, or did you just? Okay. All right. Then we have Gary Goodwin. Do you wish to speak? Okay. When you come up, give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Gary Goodwin. I live at 16982 Madison Road, which you guys call Boulevard or Avenue, whichever. We are the house sitting right across from the Next Edge building. Now, when it was approved for everything that has been stated on the setbacks, there's 3 berms that were supposed to be put around that building, lights focusing downward. There were supposed to be so many trees and that. When Next Edge purchased the building, they purchased all the provisions that the county had put in, which follows City of Nampa. Am I correct that that is what the City of Nampa also would be carrying on?
Yes.
Okay. Them having purchased that, and NextEdge is one of the backers of the 20 acres, we would ask that the same provisions be included into the 20-acre parcel, the setbacks, a berm to differentiate the property, and also the downward facing of the lighting, because we want that to be followed with the building that is already there. We had to fight the bank and mostly the bank, about doing the downward facing on the lighting, because the bank thought it was going to cost them $60,000 to do that, where it cost them about $250 to modify the lights so that it did that.
Okay.
But we would ask that you include those things in this proposal. We feel that the setback is reasonable, and I think that follows the city's code anyway, and that the lights and the berm and those things are all things that beautify the county and the city and should be included in those things. We would ask that if NextEdge owns that building and this parcel, that they be enjoined to continue on finishing up that building the same way. One thing you may want to know is all that ground out there is sub-irrigation. That's the problem that they had with the building. The sub came up and buckled the floors inside, which makes it really hard to sell. A medical grade building with floors that have cracked. So, but other than that, we have no objections to it being changed to light industrial for them. But we would ask that you think very hard about including those standards in the building and in the property.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. The next person, Deborah, I can't read your last name. Goodwin, did you want to speak, Deborah? If you need to speak up at the microphone.
Deborah Goodwin, 16982 Madison Road. I just want to also ask NextEdge if they will control the weeds around the building until they get the parking, if it's agreed, and the building completed. Because I've had to call them to ask them to mow the weeds down, and which they have done. So I appreciate them doing that. So until it's done, if they'll just keep the weeds under control.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak for, against, or undecided? Okay, Jeff, do you want to come back up and?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jeff Bauer again, 601 West Bannock. First, just real quick, I'll address Mr. Ashby's comments with the conditions. You know, none of those are particularly problematic to us, but number 9 in the recommended conditions in this application provides applicant or owner shall comply with all city codes, policies, standards in place at the time of development. So I think that condition, kind of rolls all those up into one. So I don't think that's necessary. Moving on to the Goodwin's comments, we're sensitive to those, but to be clear, we have no affiliation whatsoever with the NextEdge folks. We purchased this property from them several months back, not a joint venture, and the conditions associated with their property do not affect this 20 acres. So we have no rights to go on their property to do any of the conditions that the county required of them in their county agreement.
Hold on just a second. This just says LDK Ventures representing NextEdge Incorporated.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, I'm not sure where that came from. My only guess is that we provided planning staff with a vesting deed after we closed on the property from NextEdge to LDK Ventures. But that's the only reason I can think that the staff report.
You don't represent NextEdge at all then?
No, sir.
Okay.
Rodney?
Madam Chair, at time of application, there was ownership was in Next Edge. So when it was scheduled and I put the notice together, it was under Next Edge. Since that time, they've completed their sale. It's complete, so two separate entities. But at the time of application, it was that way.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the Goodwin's concerns about the lights, the setbacks, and the berm, you guys are all fine with that landscaping plan, or you're going to have something in place similar to,
They're going to follow city code.
yeah?
Commissioner Selman, Commissioner Bonhoeffer, that's correct. I think the conditions as they've written and we're accepting will apply city code for all the buffer, landscaping, street improvements, et cetera,
And the weeds.
and the weeds. But on our
on
property,
their
not
On your
on their
property.
property.
Yep.
Not around the Next
Yep.
Edge building.
That's right.
So for the good ones, you still, if there's weeds around their building and they're obnoxious, call Next Edge still, because they still own that 17 acres to the north, not the south property that we're talking about tonight.
That's right. And that was all I had, unless there are any other questions from the commission.
No?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that in the light industrial zone, there is not a requirement for the berm.
Okay,
So
but there's setbacks.
there are setback
Okay.
requirements, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor of closing public hearing?
Aye.
No, Michelle? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to IL zoning district for 0 Madison Boulevard in order to develop property with the light industrial and uses for LDK Ventures.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Madam Chair?
With conditions. Sorry. Conditions.
Yeah. With all the conditions set by staff, as many as they were.
You still second?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, public hearing number 2. We have the applicant here. You want me to read this now? After, okay. I'm like, what? Okay. We're not doing a CUP, right? Okay. So before they present or after? If we approve it, awesome. Okay.
Madam Chair and Commission, my name's Mike Mussel. I'm with Mussel Construction, 101 11th Avenue South. I'm here tonight to represent Nampa Christian for a conditional use permit. Our plans are to build a 20,000 square foot early childhood center. The ground was originally donated by Edmark Chevrolet to the school. Nampa Christian has raised funds for this building from local private donors and the community. Once this building is completed, this will allow more students into the existing elementary that's to the west. Nampa Christian, they have hundreds of students applying to get into the school, and we're trying to make more room and shift things around for them and make use of this property that was donated to them. We look forward to this conditional use permit to add another positive project to the city of Nampa. And I'll stand for any questions.
Mike, I have a question for you, please.
Yeah.
Looking at the plat map, the two properties do not adjoin each other, is that correct? The school and the old.
You know, the only thing I know of that goes between is a shared access agreement to those duplexes. And I think in the front, that goes between, back to the duplexes there. But if you notice, Nampa Christian takes care of all the grass along the orchard area.
I noticed that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, but, so I think they maintain everything on the frontage, and the only thing that the duplexes have is the access.
What I was concerned about is between the two different campuses. Will there be any kind of,
You know, they're totally different because one's the early childhood development and the other is the elementary, and they pretty well control all of that. So my children went there, and so I always went to the early development center, dropped off the kids, and there's a totally separate route for the other. And you gotta stick by it or you get thrown in jail, parents' jail, I guess.
I've seen cars over there.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any conflict between the students going back and forth around the.
There are sidewalks that do lead through there with some striped pedestrian, striping on the asphalt to get across, but
All right,
shouldn't be any problem.
thank you.
Okay, Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested is for a conditional use permit for a daycare / nursery preschool in an RML zone. This is in medium density residential future land use map. It is 2.11 acres total, and it's split into 4 different lots, as you can see from here, which I'll cover a little later. The zoning is currently split between RML and RS6. The applicant has stated that, you know, we would be able to, in the future, rezone it to kind of clean it up a little bit more to be completely RML. That shouldn't have any effect on the decision tonight. Surrounding land uses to the north is BC and RML. Those are single-family homes and retail spaces. To the south is Lions Park. East is Orchard Loft Apartments. And to the west are duplexes and then Nampa Christian Middle School. On the right side, you can see the site layout for the development. Parking in the front, the school to the southern part of the lot. These are the elevations, and these were approved by the design review, Building and Site Design Review Committee. The utilities and services are all available to the site. 2007 zoning map amendment from RS6 to RML in the southwest corner of the development was approved by City Council. August 2008, subdivision was approved for townhomes on that corner, but was never finalized. April of this year, there was a building permit applied for. It's currently on hold for this decision. In May, design review was completed. As far as the use, this would fall under 1032B, where it's not really a listed land use in our chart, so it would fall to a conditional use permit for your decision. It's kind of a mix of uses that we weren't sure what to categorize it as. The conclusions of law are all there for you. They're in your staff report as well. Needs to be compatible with, not adversely affect the abutting properties, provide functional living, convenient working, shopping, and civic environment, and enhance the successful operation of the area. Engineering comments, they're going to be dedicating 40 feet along Orchard Avenue. The access for the property would need to follow the access management policy. As far as the building permit currently in review on hold, they would need to address some of those concerns before the conditions on that permit. The staff analysis, it's mostly surrounded by multifamily housing with commercial, and the school to the west. It's essentially an extension of that existing school. The services provided could be viewed as beneficial to the community in a mixed-use area. And the right-of-way would need to be dedicated. Sidewalks are already in place. There would be additional traffic. The accesses would have to meet engineering standards. Here are the conditions of approval, as stated in your staff report. One to note, number 5, and I believe the applicant's currently working on this. They would need to move the lot lines or remove the lot lines because they can't go through the building. So that would be a condition. And here is a potential motion for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
No questions? Okay, thank you, Parker. Okay, public hearing, we have nobody signed up. Is there anybody here that would like to speak? Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve this conditional use permit for a daycare nursery preschool in an RML zoning district at 407 and 411 West Orchard Avenue. For Mike Mussel, who's representing Nampa Christian Schools Incorporated, with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so now I get to read my little fancy thing here. This CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff that there have been no appeals. All right. Public hearing number 3. Do we have the applicant here?
Madam Chair and Commission, my name is Matthew Richardson. I live at 18258 Madison Road currently. My wife and I are here today for application of annexation of a lot that we purchased a couple months ago. We also applied for a variance on this same property.
Okay. You're just trying to connect to city utilities?
Correct, yes.
Okay. We'll hear from staff, and we might have some questions for you if they bring us up anything.
Thank you,
Thanks.
ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As the applicant has stated, the request is for annexation and zoning to connect to city utilities. Along with this, we'll go to City Council with it is a variance of 1086 requiring 22 feet of frontage. As you can see from the exhibit, there is no real frontage on this property. Yeah. The property is not within city limits. It is designated medium-density residential, future land use map. To the north, it's in the county is residential. To the south is in the county is residential. To the east is RS7, and that's Ridgeview Estates, number 2. And to the west is RS 8.5, and that's a future subdivision. Services, utilities, and emergency services can all be made available to the property. These are the regulations for annexation. Needs to be contiguous to city-owned properties. Needs to be an orderly development and be consistent with the future land use map. These are the applicable regulations, conclusions of law, which I won't cover. Those are in your staff report. The engineering correspondence, they would be dedicating 40 feet from the section line, Madison Road. Does not have direct frontage, so dedication would not be required. The building department requirements, Title IV, the irrigation district, they have an easement on the canal there, the lateral, that would need to be protected. The proposed use matches the surrounding area. There isn't really any concern there. The future land use map has medium density, which would require 2.51 to 8 dwelling units an acre, whereas this property would be a little bit over that limit, being 1.43, so technically it'd be under that limit, 1.43 dwelling units an acre. Here are the conditions of approval for you, and those are in the staff report. And a potential motion for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Parker?
Parker, I'm not sure if you know this, maybe ask the applicant, but that sliver of land behind that property, that's between the neighborhood and the property in question, is that part of the property to the north, do you know, or is that part of, it looks kind of like a no man's land there, that little sliver of property?
That sliver of property is been purchased by us as well. So we're looking to annex in the part that's in the county. So
I see.
where the green line goes all the way down was purchased in our agreement. And then the other part is owned by my father-in-law.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this? We have no one signed up. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions for the applicant?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair, make the motion to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district to connect to city utilities and construct a single-family home on 0 Madison Road for Matthew Richardson with all conditions listed on the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one goes. Thank you. Okay, public hearing item number 4. We have the applicant here.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Blaine Womer. I'm with Womer Engineering. Our office is located at 4355 West Emerald Street in Boise, and we're representing the applicant on this project. Our project encompasses approximately 98.86 acres located at the northwest corner, Happy Valley Road and Railroad Street. The project is, our project tonight is a zone change and a preliminary plat. Currently, the property has a comp plan designation of residential mixed use. The zoning is heavy industrial, light industrial, and business commercial. The current zoning is not in conformance with the comp plan, and so what we're bringing tonight is a change of zone that brings the proposed residential uses into conformance. The preliminary plat basically follows, the lots in the preliminary plat follow the proposed zoning lines. In addition to that, we're proposing a master plan road dedication through the plat as well. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with this preliminary plat, is to have the lots conform to the zoning lines and dedicate the street. So as far as going into detail on the different zones for the areas and the proposed lot sizes and things like that, I'll let Christie go ahead and take care of that in her staff report. But
Okay.
we have read the staff report. We've reviewed it in detail with the client, and we're in agreement with the findings. We're in agreement with the conditions of approval, and our main interest tonight is to certainly try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll probably have someone hear from Christie.
Okay, we'll be ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Blaine.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The actions requested from you this evening are approval of the preliminary plat for Indian Creek Estates and a recommendation of approval for the rezoning of the parcels that will be created from that plat, 9 of them being for residential uses and 1 being commercial. All are located on the property that is on the northwest corner of South Happy Valley Road and Railroad Street. The purpose for approaching it this way is to create zones required for a residential development to be platted in the future, and to create a plat that will construct a new collector road to serve the future lots and create access to a pathway along Indian Creek. The property is currently within the city limits. It's zoned BC, IH, and IL. To the north is Canyon County property. To the south is RA zoned property, which is Triple Crown Estates and some Canyon County property. To the east and west is Canyon County Ag property. There are utilities and emergency services that can be made available to the property. The fire department has indicated that this property is located 2.2 miles from Fire Station Number 5 with a 4-minute response time. And the police department has indicated that it is 3.7 miles from the nearest police station. So the applicable regulations are listed in your staff report for a rezone. The 5 things that you will need to take into consideration is that this project would be in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan, that it would provide for proposed uses or sets of uses that would be reasonably compatible with existing properties, that it would establish an area of zoning that is the same or is compatible with the immediately adjoining districts, that it would not create a spot zone, and that it would be in the interest of the public. Some other applicable regulations would be the zones that are being requested, which is 10-8, the RS6 zone, 10-13, the RP zone, and 10-16, the BC zone. We did receive some correspondence from the building department with their standard conditions to meet Title IV regulations. The Parks Department requesting pathway easements and pathway construction. CenturyLink has requested that they have an opportunity to review all the construction drawings to make sure that they coordinate any facility movement. Nampa Police Department had their standard comments on this, except that they'll probably have new comments when a new preliminary plat is presented. The Fire Department made that same statement, and the Engineering Division had their standard comments and conditions of approval for a development of this size. So the rezoning requested is for 17.98 acres of BC to be changed to 1.05 acres of RP and 11.8 acres of RS6 Also, 61.38 acres of IL will be changed to 2.53 acres of RP, 22.56 acres of RS4, 11.4 acres of RS6, 11.4 acres of RS7, and 2.09 acres of BC. They would also be changing 23.76 acres of IH to 6.93 acres of RS4, 14.68 acres of RS6, and 0.24 acres of RS7. So you can see those comparisons up there. The one on the left is our current zoning, and the one on the right is the zoning that's being proposed. So all areas immediately adjacent to this property are currently used for ag. They are mostly in the county, with Indian Creek along the north border and Railroad Street and the railroad tracks on the south border. The property has been zoned BC and IL and IH since 2003, and it has struggled to find a use to occupy this ground. The owner at the time worked with the city at great length during the comprehensive plan update process in 2019 to evaluate this area and move towards a more residential designation. It was negotiated at that time to redesignate it as residential mixed use. So in residential mixed use, just some of the design principles that are listed in the comprehensive plan are that we provide a variety of housing types, densities, and well-planned designs placed in a manner that is aesthetically and functionally pleasing. Have an interconnected circulation system that's convenient for automobiles, pedestrians, and transit. Have ample open space with park elements and pedestrian access for all residents within the development. And that developments near transportation corridors would allow for transit-oriented development, and design elements such as landscaping, street furnishings, art, and other accoutrements would be provided. So there is a reasonable ability to assume that this rezone is appropriate. We have received an application requesting said rezone. It is a legally recognized legislative act. It is within the city of Nampa, and the zoning assignment is a long-standing practice. Rezoning assignment is a long-standing practice. The property is eligible by law for consideration. The applicant intends to develop on this property. City utility services are available. Emergency services are available. And we have determined via the comp plan that it is within the public interest to provide a mix of single-family residential opportunities near commercial uses. Engineering had some comments about transportation. This project is located along Happy Valley Road and Railroad Street. There will be a right-of-way dedication required on Happy Valley, which is 50 feet from the section line. A traffic impact study has been prepared by Kittleson and Associates and is being reviewed for this development. The plat itself proposes 9 residentially zoned lots and 1 commercially zoned lot on 98.86 acres. 6.26 acres of this property will be right-of-way in the future. Compass has determined that the job-to-housing ratio has shown that there are more jobs needed in this area. So by implementing the RP and BC zones, they would be providing opportunity for some new businesses in the area. Farmland is being consumed, but there is also 826 acres of farmland within 1 mile of this property. The nearest bus stop is 2.7 miles away. The nearest public school is 0.7 miles away. The nearest public park is 1.5 miles away, and the nearest grocery store is 2.6 miles away. So staff recommends that commission and council, should they approve this project, request that a development agreement be entered into to be recorded with the rezone ordinance. And for this development agreement to include some design guidelines. These would be connectivity requirements, parking space clearances, access, lot size, setbacks and building heights, open space requirements, qualified open space elements, maintenance, residential design features, and commercial area site development. So should you choose to approve these requests, staff recommends approval with conditions as listed in the staff report, most being reflective of the engineering division's conditions of approval, with the possible addition of the requirement of a development agreement that would contain those mentioned guidelines. Here is the potential motion for the rezone and the potential motion for the plat. I will stand for any questions.
Chrissy, the new interchange connecting with Highway 16, would that be eastbound and westbound both? Or just eastbound or westbound? You know? Oh, well.
The new
Here
interchange.
comes the engineer.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, the ultimate build-out of the Highway 16 interchange with I-84 will have off-ramps going both direction. There has been discussions of phased implementation of that may install westbound off-ramp. Let's see. One of the directions prior to the other, though the most recent discussions I've heard, it's more likely that they would implement the entire interchange at one point. Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking, I guess, is because if people were living in this subdivision and they wanted to go to that city to the east of us, I think it's Boise or something, where would they be able to access from this new interchange?
We
That'd be
are
closer.
currently discussing with ITD and Federal Highways a southern connection option for that interchange. The current ITD plans do not have plans for a southern connection at that interchange, though they have been designed such that they do not preclude that being added. But it would be a local roadway, and so we and the other local road jurisdictions, Nampa Highway District, the City of Nampa, and ACHD are exploring our options to be able to facilitate a southern connection to that interchange.
So if that was not built, these people would have to go down Railroad to 16th and then 16th to Garrity and then Garrity.
They would go to Garrity, or 10 Mile would be the more likely.
10 miles.
Happy Valley.
So yes, they could either go to the Garrity interchange or they could head east to the 10 Mile on the local road network.
Okay, thank you.
So when you're talking connection, you're not talking about they're not talking about a belt route south of there. It's a local. It would be a local roadway connection to likely connecting into Robinson in some fashion. And while you're there, I was going to ask about the TIS, the traffic impact study. Will that be updated as this project moves down the road, or? They have, the traffic impact study that has been done accounts for the entire project. It's not one where they will have to do updates to it. They have done the traffic generation based on the full build out of the project. Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to public hearing. Okay, I've got some people signed up that don't want to speak, but I'll read your name so we get you on the record. Don Newell, and if you change your mind and you want to speak, just let me know. Jay Gibbons, you want to speak? Come on up. Give us your name and address for the record.
Jay Gibbons, 2002 South Vista, Boise, Idaho. I am part of the Beck and Baird team that, you scroll back to the pretty first picture, that has shown the development has opportunity with the northern boundary being Indian Creek to enhance and renovate the creek itself and work that into an open space system that connects throughout the development, as well as provides, the city a greenbelt section, potential connections across the creek to the future developments to the north as they take shape. But it'll be an amenity to the city and amenity to the development itself, and set the framework for future property owners upriver and downriver. the inspiration, of course, come from Indian Creek downtown Caldwell that one of our principals, Jim Mayan, was intimately involved with when Indian Creek was renovated and opened back up. So that was the inspiration for this. We see pedestrian nodes. You could have historic elements in that, art elements, seating areas, what have you, along the length of the creek itself on a paved pathway. So, like I say, at the moment, the existing Indian Creek is cattail city. You've got an open channel, maybe 6 foot wide, and the margins are fully cattailed. And so it'll take some work, but we envision a very nice amenity and supporting the development. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
I don't think we have any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person on the list that does not want to speak is Matt Drown. And then we have Andrew Newell. And then Lance Thusen, you'd like to speak? I'll stand for now. Okay. Okay, against, we have Frank Herman. You wish to speak? How about Kathleen? Okay.
Those are opposition.
Yeah. And said they wanted to speak, but maybe they signed up on the wrong. Well. Oh, you did this. Okay. I'm like, how could they?
Rodney's padding the rolls.
Okay. Do you guys want the applicant back up here for questions?
Do have a question, because I know I'm gonna get asked this. When
Come on up, Blaine.
people start finding out, because, I mean, I think, just looking at this picture, I think it's really the potential for being just an incredibly nice community is there. Any idea of what type of commercial you might anticipate coming into this development?
That's probably what we have the least grasp on right now, unfortunately.
Because everyone that will ask me is saying, oh, is there a restaurant going in there? And, so when a project this big creates a lot of interest and a lot of questions and what's going on. So that's why I would throw that out there.
Sure, I think it'll really be dictated by the circulation change that's happening there, because we're bringing Railroad Street into perpendicular with Happy Valley. So it's going to create a corner, and we just don't know exactly what that corner is going to bring yet. We're still a little early in that, because as you see, it's a concept plan that we were able to build, and then the purpose was to bring the pre-plat built around that concept plan to get the zoning in place to be able to move forward. So we're working on that as we speak.
And on behalf of someone who's not here that would speak in opposition, they would bring up the traffic. And that is a concern, especially with the railroad crossing right there, where you have a railroad, a crossing, and it backs up cars for miles. It backs it up to the roundabout there at Amity and the other way too. No bridge. No. I would love to see a bridge. However, any improvements to that railroad crossing in the near future? I don't know if Daniel can speak to this or not, or if it's just a UP thing, a Union Pacific thing. I know it needs to be repaired now, but that's really going to back up the traffic there on Happy Valley. In addition to this
unfortunately, our
development.
traffic engineer isn't here tonight, and he might be able to address that better for you, but
Does a traffic impact study take into account railroad crossings?
yes.
Oh, I got a question that stumped him.
He's going to qualify my yes.
Especially one that close to a development like this.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, when we designed the roundabout there,
There being Greenhurst?
Greenhurst, so the one very close there, that was a consideration as we designed that roundabout and as the discussions of whether it should be a roundabout or a signal were had. It was determined at that time that the roundabout was the appropriate and best option to move the traffic through. The benefit that it has over a signal at that location is it's able to clear the backup that the railroad track causes faster than a signal would. And so from a traffic study perspective, we are looking at intersection operations. And so we are not necessarily looking at those the railroad incursions into the traffic flow, just from the standpoint that while they are there, they are not something that the developer can control nor the city. And so we don't, there's not really anything for us to do that we could ask the developer to mitigate to address that. And so it's not something that is specifically looked at within the traffic impact study. What we did request that this development do is move the railroad railroad street connection with Happy Valley out and create a 90-degree corner that is much safer and provides better vision clearance on either side. And they have done that with this concept. And so there are improvements to the safety and operations in that area, but specifically addressing the railroad crossing, that's not something that the traffic impact study looks at in that respect, though it was looked at when the roundabout intersection was designed and put in place.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else for the applicant? I'd entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. I'm gonna start poking people.
This has got to be one of the wordiest approval motions I've ever seen.
Nobody wants to read the motion.
Christie, if we add a development agreement, do we need to go through all the recommended clauses and terms of the agreement itself?
No, actually, I wrote it that way to say that if you chose to do that, you would be approving it with the design guidance that's outlined in the staff report. So you can leave it as is, or you can add or change the conditions.
And I think it's a great looking project, great amenities, good layout, good potential. It's going to provide a lot of different housing types per the concept plan, and it's a great location.
Sounds like a good motion to me.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to recommend to City Council approval of the subdivision preliminary plat for Indian Creek Estates for 9 residentially zoned parcels totaling 87.7 acres and 1 commercially zoned 4.9 acre parcel for a future mixed-use development. Yep.
Yeah.
With all conditions of staff, and that the applicant enter into a development agreement with all the design guidelines up there.
So you did the plat first.
Oh, shoot.
Zoning map.
So the development agreement's going to apply to the rezone.
Correct. Can I start over?
Yes, please.
Okay.
The rezone.
Now, I just totally confused myself and lost my train of thought.
Let me do it.
No,
If you can read it.
I can't read.
Who can
that.
read
Kidding me?
I don't know if you can read that.
I know, I'm good. I'm good. Okay, sorry. I'm just a slow real estate professional. I apologize. That's okay. Madam Chair, I'll move to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment of lots created in the Indian Creek Estates preliminary plat, including everything up on the screen, with all conditions of staff and the addition of the developer to enter into a development agreement with the City of Nampa with the design guidance outlined by staff in this staff report.
Second.
For Landmark Pacific Development, Inc., representing David Washburn and Troy Summers. End of motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the rezone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the preliminary plat.
Someone else want to do that one? Just kidding. Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the subdivision preliminary plat for Indian Creek Estates for 9 residentially zoned parcels totaling 87.7 acres and 1 commercially zoned 4.9 acre parcel for Landmark Pacific, all addressed at 0 East Railroad Street for Landmark Pacific Development, representing David Washburn and Troy Summers, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the preliminary plat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Sorry about that.
So this will be done by next year?
Yeah.
I'm ready for the green belt. Okay, public hearing number 5. Yeah. Do we not have the applicant here? Oh, he is? Okay.
For this next public hearing? Oh, he's representing you also?
Make sure
He's
Might as well, since he's here.
he started and now he's going to end it. Okay.
You better make sure he splits his time between the previous applicant and you,
Yeah.
given that he's an attorney.
He just flagged me down in the hallway. I don't know this guy. Okay, again, good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Jeff Bauer here on behalf of the applicant. While Christy gets my PowerPoint pulled up, I'll just get started again. To avoid some confusion in who the applicant is here, I want to just lay it out a little bit beforehand, because again, the staff report names Harvest Life Church. And so they are a part of this. So Harvest Life Church owns this property. They are looking to lease it to an entity called Building Hope, which is a national foundation that constructs public charter schools. And in turn, Building Hope is going to lease it to the Elevate Academy, which is a local charter school that has a school in Caldwell. So my law firm, we represent Building Hope, kind of the middleman in this. None of the people involved in this transaction wanted to talk to you tonight, so they made me come do it. But Cole is with Building Hope. He's the project manager. Jerry Dickerson, he is with Harvest Life Church. And then we have Pastor Dave and Phil Diplock in the purple over there. He's with the eventual charter school that we're trying to bring to you with the Elevate Academy.
I think
Okay.
I'm gonna need a flow chart, though.
It's not that confusing, but I just didn't want anyone to, accuse me of representing somebody else tonight.
Makes sense.
Okay, so to get started, same as the last application, we have reviewed the planning staff's report, all the conditions of approval. They're all fine with us, and we do want to thank staff for working with us diligently with us on this. So the application before you tonight is a very simple one. We're asking to amend a development agreement. The property at issue is a 20-acre piece of property, 22-acre piece of property on Orchard Avenue between Middleton and Midway Road. So all the red there. In 2011, the city annexed all this property as part of the Harvest Life Church project. And when they did that annexation, they also required a development agreement. As they typically do, the development agreement in this case had a concept plan for development. And up on the screen here is that original concept plan. As you can see, I don't know, I can't point with this, but if you're familiar with the area in the upper left-hand corner, that would be the northwest. That is the existing Harvest Life Church and parking lot. The remainder of the site remains vacant. So tonight, we're asking for a pretty small modification to the concept plan. We are asking for the commission to recommend amending the concept plan to allow for the future school site on the northeast corner. So again, kind of toggling back, that would be the area on the other side, on the northeast side of the Isaiah Drain. And for a little bit more context, here's the original concept plan next to what we're asking to be the amended concept plan.
And the rest of that is still for future growth of the church or whatever they might do, this southern part of that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, yes, that's correct. And to clarify, the lease that I mentioned earlier only references or only is respect to the red area. The church will still control all of the remaining area to the south that you mentioned. So as the staff report does mention, I mean, these are actually fairly unusual requests to amend a development agreement like this. There aren't any standards. I'm up here to argue you have to apply. It really is totally discretionary. But we are asking you to exercise your discretion and approve the amendment tonight. The first factor that I think is really important is that a public charter school isn't allowed use in this zone. So the city code does specifically allow public schools in the RS6 zone. The second reason I think this is a good idea and the city should approve it is that this is a really unique and much needed educational opportunity. As I mentioned, the Elevate Academy is going to operate the school. On the left side is their current Caldwell campus, and on the right side are some renderings of what we think this site will look like, very similar. But Elevate Academy has an integrated life skills model. So it's a slightly alternative public school. It serves students from 6th to 12th grade. They focus on life skills and also trade-specific courses. So culinary arts, construction, criminal justice, emergency services, things like that. It's proved extremely successful in Caldwell, and Elevate wants to bring it to Nampa because they think there's a need here as well. So it does serve a segment of the population that's not currently served by public schools. Some of the students don't traditionally do well in public school, and that's what this public charter school is sort of created to cater to. Again, I'm going to be brief tonight. You guys are cranking through these really fast, and I don't want to take up more of your time, but we think this is a great use for this site. We have a great partner with the church next door. We think the uses are compatible, and we'd ask you guys to approve this amendment tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned this is for individuals 6th grade through 12th grade,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, yes.
and then you mentioned those that are involved with the criminal justice system. Are you still talking about juveniles, or are you talking about adults at that point?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, I'm sorry if I misspoke. These students are not juveniles or in the criminal justice system. They offer courses to prepare kids to enter that field.
Okay. I was wondering if I was going to have to recuse myself. That makes more sense.
Yes, sir. And yeah, similar coursework would be, training for police, fire, things like that.
It's a curriculum, yeah, okay.
Won't be any bad kids there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you tonight is the modification of development agreement from Ordinance 3983 that was recorded on October 5th, 2011 against the properties located at 11437 and 0 West Orchard Avenue, or what is currently known as the Harvest Life Church property. A little history here. After Harvest Life was approved and zoned in October of 2011, there was a request to rezone the eastern portion of the property to RD for a housing development, but this project was denied in 2014. The property is currently zoned RS6, and the applicant is not proposing changing the zoning. It is zoned RS6 to the south and east, where it is in the Westminster subdivision. Otherwise, the entire area is surrounded by Canyon County ag-zoned property. City water, sewer, and PI have adequate capacity to service this site. So, as stated, the development agreement is a contract between the city and the applicant. The new development agreement will show adjusted property lines between the church and the proposed school. It will define a new concept site layout for both properties. It will retain the original conditions for the church and apply new conditions for the approval of the school site. This is a comparison of the lot configuration. The left side shows how it exists now, and the right side shows the proposed lot line adjustments. As he showed you earlier, this is the concept plan that will be recorded for both sites. We received standard comments from the building department, police department, and the engineering division. So staff has analyzed the comp plan, which is the medium density residential. This is not a residential project, so this doesn't technically apply to that. The schedule of uses in 1032 shows that school facilities are allowed in RS zones. The comprehensive plan does outline the school district's strategic vision for providing education to all students in Nampa, and it shows the city's plan for well-located schools. Those strategies are identify areas of future development to include school sites and plan infrastructure that supports school locations, which this location does both of those things. So should the commission choose to approve this request, the conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and the conditions to be included in the DA will be separated for parcels A and parcels B. And this is your potential motion. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christy? Okay, we'll go to public hearing. Okay, we have a bunch of people that signed up for the proposal. We have Jeff on here. Hugh Castillo, you're in favor. Jerry Dickerson. Gloria Arredondo. David Whaley, and then Cole Koba. Do you want to speak? You had said yes, but you're, okay. And we have nobody against, but we have 2 undecided. Wayne, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name. Okay. And you'd like to speak? Come on up. They just were signed up. They didn't really want to talk.
They're leaving that to you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Wayne Uzaconis, and I live at 11290 West Cheshire Court, which is in the Westminster subdivision, about 300 feet from the property line. I'm not affiliated with Elevate or Harvest Life Church or anything, but I would like to say that I think this is a good project. I think it's a good fit for the neighborhood. I do like it. I think Pastor Dave and Elevate have done a good job at coming up with a plan for that 6 acres. And I just stand in support of that. I do have one concern, is how close the building sets to the property line, that Westminster's property line. I can't really see on that map. But other than that, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, we'll find out that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Tricia Davis, did you wish to speak? Okay.
Hi, my name is Tricia Davis. I live at 11384 West Radcliffe Street in the Westminster subdivision. I am not opposed to this school at all, as actually one of my granddaughters attends Elevate Academy in Caldwell. So my only questions are, I was trying to understand the way the school was sitting, and this is the first I've seen of it. And it looks pretty much exactly like the one in Caldwell. So I see the staff parking and all that is in the front when you first get there. So I understand the next building is the actual school building, the two-level building? What is that in the back there? Is that the trades? Is that the actual wood shop and manufacturing? Are they gonna have that same one here at this school? Does anybody know? You will have that?
We'll have the applicant clarify that when he comes back up.
Okay. So my only concern there was I wanted to see where it was going to be in relation to the neighborhood and how they would address maybe the sound, because I know I've been there, and the wood shop is a huge shop and it's very loud. And then they have the manufacturing side, which will be loud. So how will they, because I don't think the current school sits up against a subdivision. How will they address the sound there? And that does look awful close to our neighborhood right there on that side.
When you say current school, you're talking about the one in Caldwell?
Yes.
We'll ask those two questions for you.
Okay. So will that come later? Is that what, we'll get answers to that later?
Yeah, I'm going to have him come back up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, Jeff.
Madam Chair, Commission, Christy, if you could just pull up the site plan again, I'd appreciate that. Okay, I think there are essentially two sets of questions. We'll address Mr. Yuzakonis's first. Setbacks. Christy might correct me on this, but I believe the required setback in the RS6 zone for the side setback is 5 feet. We have not done construction drawings or engineered drawings yet, but I think we're looking at somewhere between 12 and 15-foot setback from the side property line. I know the site plan's not up there yet, but this is kind of an unusual piece of property. It's got a strange shape. It's hemmed in by the Isaiah Drain on the west, and so we don't have a lot of space to work with. So we're trying to be trying to respect the setbacks as much as possible to our neighbors while still building a building that is sufficient size to accommodate our students. On the second question, yes. So the main building towards Orchard Avenue there is going to be the school structure, and the building behind is Building B is the shop structure. In terms of noise, I can't say that we're taking any specific mitigation measures, except it's a fully enclosed building built to building code, and it will only be operated during school hours. So, 8 to 3:30. So no after hours noise.
Bay doors or regular single accent entry?
There are overhead doors.
Should they be kept closed during the day to mitigate sound?
That's a good, let me stand up here, excuse me. I did not. Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, and Phil may be better to address this question. Elevate does have overhead doors on their shop building that at times are used to program some of their activities outside. And again, Phil, you'd be better to address this, but I imagine if there are specific issues with sound, I imagine the school would be more than happy to work with the surrounding neighbors to make sure it was kept to a minimum.
All right, now I'll ask Christy a question, and maybe she'll help What's the decibel level that can leave their property? Is it 70%, 7, or what's the level?
That's in the police code. You're asking me to memorize chapter 6.
I think it's 65 decibels.
I don't recall the decibels, I just have the time frame.
Times, yeah.
So it's from 11 PM to 7 AM that,
So they would be concerned then at night.
yeah. And they don't necessarily have during the hours that you can make noise, they don't have a decibel level listed in city code. They have, I believe they talk about it during the hours that you can't be making noise.
Is there any possibility you could turn those two 90 degrees, put the school towards the subdivision and the shop behind it, so that the school would be blocking that noise?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Turner, our civil engineer isn't here, but I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no, and I think I know the reason why. We have 2 access points onto Orchard, and we have basically your kind of standard school bus flow through that kind of horseshoe shape up top, and I think that's pretty critical to the design here.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could, leave the parking the way it is, but turn that school, and the kids would just have to walk down in front of the school instead of accessing it straight on.
Yeah, another thing that came up in the design specifically to sort of be sensitive to the area we're in, recognizing it is an allowed use, we didn't want to have a full frontage on those neighbors. We were trying to limit the bulk and facade as well.
That was it. Just run that by you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Christie, so this modified agreement in our packet, is that what, if this is approved, that's what would go to the city for signature, right, for agreement?
Yeah, we'll run it by our attorney, but that's pretty much it.
Because I was just I was trying to rush through this real quick just now as he was talking and making sure that there was some flexibility if after the building, the construction and things are going on, that it does look like it's gonna cause some sound and there needs to be some mitigation elements at that point constructed, then there is flexibility in this agreement in order to do that. I
So-
think, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not trying to interpret this, but I just want to make sure that the neighbors have that ability to say, no, wait a second, this is way too loud and we need to make this change.
Commissioner Kirkman, I don't know how that affects the neighbors, like what the ability of the neighbors to come back on. I suppose that you could put a condition in there that would provide that option. That would be tough.
It would be difficult to detail that.
We have had numerous discussions with the police department about another project that's going on the north side that is an industrial property right next to a subdivision. And they have overhead doors, it's a shell building, they don't know what kind of tenants are gonna be in there, they know there's gonna be a lot of loading and unloading. The development agreement specifically addresses a berm, landscaping, those kinds of things. But the neighbors have continually had questions about how do we make sure, that even if the landscaping doesn't quite work the way we think it might, if it's still loud, what is our
What recourse?
recourse? The police department has basically said we will come out on a call-by-call basis and we will evaluate the nuisance at that point and determine how we can address it. But there isn't really anything in the development agreement that says what they can do.
And I would not anticipate this particular development becoming a nuisance, especially with between the hours, between 8 and 3:30. And I don't think there's gonna be 2,000 kids in this school either. There might be, I don't know. What is the capacity? Do you know that yet?
Yep, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, the max charter is 486, is that correct, Phil? And that's a cap charter, that'll be the most students there'll ever be in that building, so.
And not all of them are gonna be taking shop or auto or anything like that? but-
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, that makes sense to me. I get that, thank you.
Madam Chair, sorry.
You.
You. So Daniel was just mentioning that, you know, if, as we go forward to city council, because we will have another opportunity to discuss this, that we might recommend that the applicant monitor the decibel levels from the current school so that they have something to bring forward to city council to maybe address some of those concerns.
Good idea. Daniel came up with that idea? Wow.
I thought he was,
I would entertain a motion to close public hearing. Wait.
Commissioner, Madam Chair and Commission, we were just talking, Cole and I, and we're in favor of that condition. And we just want you to know we're gonna look at other options for sound mitigation from a landscaping standpoint and have that available at council as well.
Thank you.
So at that point, if they agree to certain landscape modifications, that would go into the DA.
Yes.
I'll move to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Once you testify, then that's your chance to ask your question. So we don't let people come up a second time, unfortunately.
they can ask the applicant after the meeting.
You can
City council.
talk to them after the meeting if you need more answers. Okay, what do you guys want to do?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we, this recommendation of city council, correct, because it's a DA, that we,
Look at the screen, look at the screen. Oh, sorry.
that we, excuse me, that we recommend to city council this development agreement modification to modify the site plan ordinance number 3983, Exhibit B, to allow construction of Elevate Charter School, which is a nonprofit public school, instead of the future phases of the existing church at 11437 and 0 West Orchard Avenue in an RS6 zoning district. For Cole Koba, representing Harvest Life. You're not representing Harvest Life Church.
No.
I was trying to tell you to read it off the wall.
I got it. For Cole Koba, well, it is up there.
It's on there too.
Anyways, for Cole Koba,
Motions are tough tonight.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, because they're worded,
They're wordy.
yeah. Who was the,
That motion is perfect because the owner is still Harvest Life and we're here on their.
with conditions of staff, and I also want to include also the consideration of monitoring the decibel levels from the existing charter school over in Caldwell, and discussion with city council and kind of monitoring how that might look, and mitigating whatever might be necessary in a DA.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the changes to the development agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that'll go to city council.
You know what you were seconding? Ron, did you know what you were seconding?
I'm just going off of what was up there. This has got it.
Yeah, and it was still representing up there also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta figure it out. You gonna be here next time too, Jeff?
I hope so.